Hello, this is History Pitch number... What number is it?
11.
And we have taken over from Tamson Pietsch. We're not letting her in the room. She was too late. It's just going to be myself, Artemis and Josie for the time being.
I need the microphone close.
Oh, no. This is unfair. Let her in. Let Tamson in.
You're going to keep it going now. You're
Punctuality, seriously, that's terrible. Right. In that case, I'm going to move out of the chair, give Tamson her show back. I feel a bit mean now, actually.
Yeah.
There you go.
Surely you're going to keep talking. We can't have any dead air going on here. You've started this. You've got to kind of follow it through now.
Well, we were expecting it was just going to be us for about half an hour, so, because you never know.
Keep talking. Okay,
right.
So what we have today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I'm late, but we have the most last-minute show possibly imaginable. I have recorded 2 segments this morning with people, historians under incredibly trying conditions. Are we on? I hope so. Yeah, we're on. Oh, good. Awesome. Excellent. Look at this collaborative effort. And here we are. So what... Well, you're going to have to keep talking while I do the technology.
Shall we do a bit of Today in History, shall we?
Defo.
Okay. I think you're going to be cross with me later. Right, okay. According to my copy of the Eye, Today in History...
Shit.
What? You can't just swear loudly. That doesn't... Yeah, right. Today, the 7th of February, in 1948, Neil Harvey, who was 19, scored 143 runs against England. He is still Australia's youngest Test centurion.
What?
19 years old, and he scored 153.
Really?
Yeah. No, incredible. There we go. Cricket, in fact. I love cricket. Somebody else? Anyone else today in history?
That was it.
That was it. That's all that happened
birthdays?
in history today. Okay, whose birthday is it? Right, that's fine. Today it is the birthday of the actress Dora Bryan, the singer Juliette Greco. Eddie Izzard. It's Eddie Izzard's birthday.
Aww,
he today
great.
is 51. Love Eddie Izzard. Anything else, Artemis? Okay.
We all get old.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Well, I'm going to tell listeners that we have a bit of an evolving Irish theme going on today. Yeah, which is quite exciting for me. Let me see if we can play this.
Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen.
Okay, that's not the tone we want to set here, is it? It's a bit too melancholy.
It is.
What else happened in history?
Okay, we've got some very exciting things. Today was a good day. Okay, 7th of February 1964, the Beatles arrive in New York.
Ooh.
Beatlemania starts in America. We've got 1996, Kasparov, the Grandmaster, loses a chess game to a computer. And we've got...
Oh my gosh, that's quite a moment in human cyborg relations.
That was... you've just given me this week. That was actually on February the 10th, so that's just coming up. And February the 11th, Nelson Mandela was released from prison, so that's coming up this week as well, in 1990. There you go.
So he was released this week from prison. That's... Oh, no, it's not a round number.
No, it's not. 23 years ago.
Yeah.
So there.
He still spent more of his life in jail than out,
I know,
which is...
sad.
Astounding. Okay, well, let us move swiftly on. Thank you very much for holding the fort, team. I'm very pleased and proud, and I should have lurked outside for a little bit longer. Artemis has brought all sorts of exciting stuff.
I didn't.
Who did? Josie. OMG.
That's exciting. That is
OMG. Okay, we'll have to set that up for photographic purposes. But we're going to launch off, as usual, with Erica. So, Erica, where are you? You're going to come visit me. This is like so hot off the press, it's not funny. Play.
Good morning, Tamson.
Thank you for nobly stepping up to the plate. I know you caught a very early train this morning.
Yeah, I've been up since 5.
That is painful, and you probably did not go to bed as early as you could have.
No, exactly. I'm terrible at bed.
And let's move swiftly on. All for the cause of history.
Exactly. And also, can I just say, what a week of history it's been. This has perhaps been one of my biggest history weeks ever. Because...
Take it from the top.
On Monday, we find Richard III here in Leicester.
Ah, wow.
Crazy, huge.
I didn't realise that.
All it's resulted in is academics attacking the University of Leicester for being sort of populist and dragging down history. That's a bit embarrassing, but it happened. On Monday night, you and me saw Laura Lee Downs speak, my idol.
in Oxford, yep.
In Oxford. Then on Tuesday, the report into the Magdalen Laundries was published in Ireland.
And what fallout has there been from that?
Sorry?
What fallout has there been from that?
Oh, it's been horrendous. I don't know if you people know any of this, but since the 18th century in Ireland, single mothers or women of ill repute or even overly flirtatious women have been condemned to these laundries where they worked for free and were incarcerated and were treated incredibly badly. And it was basically this state-sponsored system of locking up troublesome women. And even now, so there's a big report into it because the government, the laundries themselves, which are run by convents, refuse to release their archives. There's this terrible thing where there's like a double injustice to these women where they're not even allowed to understand their stories now they're released because the government refuses. The government supports the convents in letting them destroy their archives. But there's now been an official government study done into it, and the scale is just horrendous of especially sort of working class women who are locked up, but the government still refuses to apologise because it's just like patriarchal and sort of dominated by the church and horrendous. So I don't even want to get into it, but there's a lot going on in Ireland.
Let's do another week on the laundries.
Let's do another week on the laundries.
Yeah.
But then last night I gave a paper in Cambridge.
And what was the paper on?
Well, the paper was on Irish history as well. It was on Georgian Dublin. So I have an argument about Georgian Dublin.
Yeah, tell us.
Which I will tell you, which is that the whole idea that we have a heritage site called Georgian Dublin is in itself inherently problematic because Dublin in the main is not Georgian,
okay,
right?
Which bit of Dublin, for our listener, for Ethel, who we've decided our listener is called Ethel.
Ah, okay. So if you visit Dublin, there's postcards everywhere saying Georgian Dublin, doors of Dublin. This is how the city is marketed as an 18th century city.
But is there a zone? Is there a Georgian Dublin zone like there is in Manchester? There's the Yeah.
Yeah, there is. There's two areas, one to the north, one to the south of the Liffey, which are particularly homogenous in their 18th century architecture. But basically, my understanding of this would be, and I've spent many years pondering this, the architecture is a continuum, right? One, buildings are built all the time. So you get buildings in the 18th century style being built right through the 19th century. Two, buildings are adapted all the time. And so you get changing uses of 18th century buildings. You get, the sort of Palladian interiors of the 18th century being ripped out by Victorians and something very, very different being put in. You know, huge amounts of knocking down in the 19th century and sort of neo-Gothic put up in its place. You know, all these different things. But during the mid-20th century, the sort of values of origins of a building's worth is designated in the moments of construction. Values of origins, values of authenticity, the idea of this academically understood worth of a building. So there's almost like, it's like a Platonic 18th century building that never has existed, that all Georgian buildings are measured against, right?
Like it's like a Platonic ideal.
It is. Architectural theory is all based around this sort of weird Platonic ideal. So you get this idea, which actually means that the 18th century city, instead of being understood as part of a medley that makes up Dublin, gets bounded and cut off and designated and listed as this zone is the 18th century zone, right?
Yeah. So this is the wine gum view of urban history in Dublin, that there are these nice little sort of discrete century or discrete periods that are mapped onto the urban space when,
Exactly. This is what comes with when you define the city, this part of the city, as Georgian, and you say that any change that took place after the 18th century is in a way a corruption rather than seeing the street as a journey and as something that continually evolves. Once you have that sort of very essentialist idea of buildings, it becomes associated pointedly with the point at which it's constructed. And this is why in Ireland you get this big debate around, are these buildings really Irish at all? Because they were built during the 18th century, supposedly at the high point of British colonialism in Ireland. So you get this particular set of cultural tensions. But I think it's all to do with the conception of architectural theory that existed in the mid-20th century Ireland.
Do you know, I mean, this is, obviously some of these same themes run through post-colonialism.
Right.
But, I mean, Ireland takes up those narratives that temporality gets sort of made static and that gets mapped onto space and highly politicised. So there are bits of India, for example, and particularly if you go around Bombay, which is a colonial city, which have just been, inherently, it didn't exist before the arrival of the British, which have been left to go to ruin because they are somehow, Victorian and imperial, and the post-independent state doesn't really want anything to do with them, despite the fact that they've been appropriated from their very beginnings by not just Indian adaptation, but usage, right? Like practice, how a building is lived in matters just as much as how it's adjusted and adapted. I mean, this is a cool argument. Do people make this more broadly around the field of architecture? Because it would seem to apply to places outside Dublin, as I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I think that, no, this is mainly my argument, I think. Even though there is like a school of thought about why, for example, it becomes Georgian vast, even though there's a huge amount of good, very, very good Victorian architecture in that. So you do get the same sorts of argument. I think this is my big moment. This is sort of me taking everything from my thesis and being like, this is how I feel about this. So I think it's not massively, I have to say, the study of preservationism can be a bit boring. I will tell you that.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it has been boring and you're about to inject it with new life. It sounds like, Ethel, can you hear us, Ethel? You're hearing this here, a paradigm-shifting moment. How did the denizens of Cambridge University respond to this radical new intervention?
Well, I think Peter Mandler liked it. Because I had a lot of John Summerson in my paper. Mandler's written a lot on John Summerson. I think everyone else just thought, what's this about? I'll tell you one of the things that's really, really embarrassing, and I'll share this with your listeners. Anyone was invited to dinner who wanted to go. I got 10 men, no women.
Oh, Erica!
Peter Mandler was like, what have you done to women? So I was like, I don't normally do this. Normally I thought I had a really good way with women. But I had this slightly weird, very mannish dinner with me.
Maybe it's quite Cambridge.
That's what I thought, actually. I felt like I was in academia in the 1970s.
Yeah.
There's a bit strange. And I also have to say, not being in Oxbridge anymore, I found it all very weird. It was all very posh. And I kind of thought, what is this?
And coded, right? But you knew the code. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose I did.
But a lot's going on there. A lot is going on there. It's good. We need to maintain that sense of alienation because...
Yeah, I felt quite alienated from my profession, I have to say. Yeah. But it was a good feeling.
But that's where, I mean, you feel alienated from Ireland, just to, share some...
Well,
but that's where productivity and that's where a kind of insight comes, I think.
I know, I'm like Hayden Caulfield, aren't I? I just have wandered the streets feeling alienated.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen...
Tamson, one more thing to say.
Yes.
And this is actually directed at a comment made last week about me.
Oh.
The Irish government never had a policy of taking down statues, and there are 2 statues of my relatives in Ireland.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you. There are 2 statues. Where are they?
One is on Kildare Street. It's of a man called, William Plunkett. He's my great-great-great-uncle. And there's another one in Belfast of Hugh Hannah, who's also a great-grandfather of mine.
Okay, Erica. Okay, we've got 2 more topics for the future. They're very...
Okay.
One is your rallies in the... and the other is...
Magdalen
Laundries, yeah. Okay, so let's look forward to that, Ethel.
Okay, thanks very much.
Bye, Erica, bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Erica. And can I just confirm that you definitely do have a way with women? despite what the denizens of Cambridge University stumped up last night. So we're back now to the studio where the most amazing cakes have been cracked out, brought in honour of LGBT History Month, for which we have a special segment running all for the next 4 weeks. LGBT feature segment. We haven't got a name for that, but I'll come up with one in the course of the next 10 minutes, I'm sure. It'll be slightly inappropriate. But, Tavinder, welcome back.
Hello.
What happened in the bathtub?
Were you alone? Oh dear, this is not good.
There was an incident. The incident of the bathtub.
It was strange. I just fainted.
Oh no!
Right, it was lack of oxygen, too much steam.
Yeah,
Was it? Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
By your own fumes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're back okay and not suffering serious concussion.
I was in there for an hour, so maybe that was
Passed
that.
out?
No.
Dehydration.
Yeah, dehydration.
Oh.
Dehydration. The shower was too hot for too long. That was it.
You were in the shower for 1 hour?
I was washing my hair. Have you seen my hair?
I have, but
And it's long.
I'm just worried about the resources of the planet. Okay, so moving swiftly along. Don't shower for too long, Ethel. That's all we have to say.
Moral of the story.
Yeah, cut your hair short.
Forget hair, just go bald.
Yeah,
That's it.
forget hair. Just got bold as the new hairy.
Yeah.
Speaking of hair,
Speaking of
beard
hair.
or babe?
Ooh, beard. A good bushy beard.
Oh, good. That must take a whole hour to condition. Who have you got?
We're talking about Anthony Gaudi today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, fun old Gaudi.
Did he have a beard?
He had a lovely beard.
Serious?
Really good beard.
Okay. Just talk us through the follicles.
So he was a Spanish architect, born in Catalonia, studied in Spain. Most of his famous buildings are in Spain. I don't know if he built much stuff out of Spain or even Barcelona, actually.
I don't.
No.
So.
Yeah, so most of his stuff is in Barcelona, and it's pretty amazing looking.
Well, is it finished
Quite
yet?
cool.
It's still going.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Am I preempting?
Ooh, yeah, preempting.
Oh, this is actually interesting because it directly intersects with the conversation I was just having about Erica,
Ooh.
which was about when do buildings date to, right? Why do we date them to this moment of origin? And
Yeah.
Gaudi is a classic example.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
building has been dynamically evolving and added onto by various architects over the course
Yeah.
of how long?
Something like 80-odd years?
Yeah, 80-odd
80,
years.
90 years?
Does
the
that-
building... Well, actually, even longer, because the building broke ground in 1883, and it was originally, planned. Someone else was planning to build it, and then Gaudi was brought on sort of a year later.
Sorry, this is the cathedral
Yes, this is Sagrada Familia. Yep.
in Barcelona.
Yes, cathedral in Barcelona, the huge, massive cathedral that still isn't built or finished even. So Gaudi
Sort of looks like dribbly bits of concrete.
Well, it looks a lot better now than it did before. So Gaudi was brought on to build it, and he scrapped all the original designs and said, I'm going to do what I like with this, and it's going to be all foresty and, natural looking and taking elements from nature. And everyone was going, whoa, Gaudi, you're going crazy here. This is too imaginative for us. And even after his death, when it still wasn't built, people were still going, whoa, too imaginative. And it's like,
It is quite imaginative.
Yeah, but it's the most organic, most natural form of architecture there is. So
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So Gaudi spends most of his life, well, the rest of his life, focusing on that basilica. But when he dies in 1926, it still isn't finished, and Spanish Civil War comes along and construction stops. And for a while, nothing happens. But then in the 1950s, construction picks up again and it steadily starts progressing. And then in 2010, it reached the halfway point. It took 60 years for them to reach the halfway point.
So how do we know what is halfway? You see, these are interesting.
Supposedly they're going by Gaudi's original plans, but as you said, people have changed them.
Building materials have changed.
It's been adapted. So what they're saying now is they're planning to open it on the death of Gaudi's 100th anniversary.
The anniversary of his
Death in 2026.
Right.
So
That's not halfway then, is it?
no, I mean, will it be built by then? Will it not? What's going to happen?
Will it be ruined if it's built?
Good question.
Is it all about process, that build thing, and not about arrival?
Yeah, and what will it mean to them after it's
And if
built?
it's really organic, it should keep growing.
Yes, it should keep developing, should keep, building.
It is very beautiful. I have sat in there, and it does look like a cacophony of trees.
Is it used? I didn't realise.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And the buildings are happening around you, and I quite like that idea.
So it's a construction site, but
Yeah.
it's also being used.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that idea.
Yeah, exactly. I think it should never end.
It is never gonna end. It's a tourist trap. Come on.
Exactly.
They're
Yeah.
gonna keep.
That's why they're not finishing it. It's not that hard. Come on, it's already ready.
Yeah, well, at that rate, really, it seems like it is one brick a day.
And you can always rely on Artemis to come in with a cynical analysis. But, on the money, let's not get... But she says...
All right, going back to Gaudi now.
Yeah, back to the man and the beard.
But back to the man. So he's, something like 76 when he dies. He's still going strong, still working on his buildings, and he's a deeply religious man. Goes to church every week, almost every day if he can help it. And on the day he dies, he was actually walking to church.
Church was his workplace, so...
No, as in, to pray, not to put a brick up and then leave.
No, that could be a form of prayer too.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Look at the medieval architects. Sorry, keep going. Back to you.
So he was walking along, and then he was hit by a tram, and he was knocked out. So then he was unconscious on the street, and nobody looked at him twice because he was dressed like a beggar. He was dressed really shabbily for the most of his later part of his life. He didn't carry any ID or any money on him, so people didn't recognise who he was. So he was just left there for most of the day. And then when he was eventually found and taken to hospital, his condition was so bad they couldn't do anything for him, and he died 2 days later.
That's
really sad. Really sad. Yeah. But then after his death, people would again say, he's too imaginative, too modern for us. We don't like his style.
This was in the midst of Franco's Spain. I mean, that's probably says...
Do you honestly like the park?
The park?
Yeah, the park. His park, the Gaudi Park in Barcelona.
Oh, the one up on the hill?
Yeah, do you like it?
Not honestly, no.
Well, then why were they wrong, and why was...
I wasn't saying they were wrong. I was saying that they were...
He was too imaginative. That's why he was broke, because no one bought his houses on the park.
Some of his houses are beautiful.
They're really pretty.
They
pretty.
look like cakes. I wouldn't live in that. And you
Okay, do you want to see cake houses?
The rooms are really small.
Yeah, see some neo-Italian piles of late 20th century nostalgia.
They're pretty.
Okay, moving straight along. That was excellent. I enjoyed that discussion. We have a bit of an architectural theme going on as well. I like this retrospective imposition of meaning. So we're going to now switch to LGBT History Month. Josie, do you want to introduce this at all before I hit play?
I think I introduced it a little bit in the segment.
You do, I know, I listened to it.
Oh, God. Yeah, you can just go ahead.
Okay. Ethel, we're going to have to apologise a little bit because the quality of the recording is not pristine.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But that's okay because you're recording on site somewhere.
Yeah, in my room.
In your room. So here we are, like the spaces of HistoryPitch, no end. Okay, let's see if I can play this. Here we go. Whoops, wrong feed.
Josie, and I'm here with Emma Hoare, and we're here to talk to you about LGBT History Month, which started on the 1st of February and lasts the entire month, obviously. We've got some facts that we'd like to share with you over the next few Thursdays. Today we're starting with ancient and classical history. So we'll start with giving you a brief timeline, and hopefully it'll get a bit more exciting thereafter. So firstly, as most people are probably aware, we have in the 7th century BC the first instances of pederastia amongst the Cretan Greeks, which is what is generally known as the Greeks' version of homosexuality. It's kind of associated with pedophilia as well, but that's not entirely accurate. But there are some similarities. So, on to the next fact. Okay, in 630 to 612 BC. That's like Sappho's poetry writing time, which we will go back into later.
Yes, we will.
Shockingly.
There's a lot more to her. So in 385 BC, Plato publishes his Symposium, in which a few of his characters debate about the love between males, and they call it the highest form, and sex between women as lustful and utilitarian.
350 BC, Plato publishes Laws, in which the Athenian stranger and his companions criticize homosexuality as being lustful and wrong, again, for society because it does not further the species and may lead to irresponsible citizenry.
Yeah, so then in the 2nd to 1st century BC, it was considered for an adult male citizen acceptable for him to desire and engage in same-sex relations. Oh, this was in Rome. It was considered natural and socially acceptable as long as his partner was a male prostitute, slave, or generally a person of lower class.
Nice. 54 BC, Nero becomes emperor of Rome and married two men, Pythagoras and Sporus, in legal ceremonies.
And as we learned earlier, Sporus he actually had castrated before he married him and called him by his dead wife's name.
Because they looked alike.
Yeah, it was very, very weird. Okay, so in 130, I think this is AD now, Antinous, Antinous, it was a 19-year-old boy who was Emperor Hadrian's favourite and beloved. So he died under mysterious circumstances in Egypt on the west of the Nile, I think, or the east of the Nile. And this is got to be specific because Hadrian was so distraught by this that he had an entire city built around Antinous, and he also made an entire cult around Antinous. And he was considered the most beautiful male to have ever lived. And there were many sculptures of him throughout the Roman empires because of this.
In 218 BC, no AD even, the emperor, Elagabalus, I want to say, that's probably wrong, begins his reign. He marries a man named Zoticus, an athlete from Smyrna, in a lavish public ceremony in Rome amid the rejoicings of the public.
244 to 249, Emperor Philip the Arab tries and fails to outlaw homosexual prostitution.
Oh, fails. Oh dear. In 342, the first law against same-sex marriage was promulgated even by the Christian emperors Constantinus II and Constans.
In 390, the Christian emperors Valentinian II, Theodosius I, and Arcadius declared homosex to be illegal, and those who were guilty of it were condemned to be burnt alive in front of the public.
Should have given us a pronunciation run-through. The Christian emperors Justinian I made homosexuals a scapegoat for problems such as famine, earthquake, and pestilences. From this point, homosexuals face a severe crackdown on almost all countries.
And then, in a giant leap forward, we go to 1250 AD to 1300 AD. Homosexuality activity radically passes from being completely legal, though not socially acceptable, in most of Europe to incurring the death penalty in most European states. So you can sort of see the framework that we have to work with here. For a few thousand years, homosexuality, even if it wasn't always socially acceptable, it was partially considered acceptable on some levels if it was with someone of a much lower class or a younger male or with a prostitute. Male prostitution took a long time to die out in Rome, and it just, they couldn't ban it, but they did collect taxes on it. So it took a long time to work that out.
But they gave up for the sampling of the prostitutes?
Yeah.
Instead of taxing the prostitutes.
That's a different method, sort of
testing your own wares instead of making profit from them.
Cut down on earning time.
Yeah, you're probably not supposed to do that. But now we're going to talk about Sappho, because Emma has found a lot of interesting things about Sappho. So far as we know, Sappho is a very, very famous woman. She lived in the 7th century, the 7th century. And she is the reason why lesbians are sometimes known as Saphists.
Or why they're known as lesbians. So she's from the Isle of Lesbos.
She's the reason why lesbians are named lesbians. There are many links between her and lesbians.
And many really out there paintings.
Lots of very...
lots of graphic acts being committed there.
Yeah, those are probably not TV appropriate, but we can talk about them.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they were accurate, but they probably weren't accurate.
Not according to our research. I would imagine her husband would not be very pleased with them.
Yeah, her having a husband. What is that about?
Husband and a daughter. But the main argument is that her poetry shows a love of both sexes, and she often talks about how amazing and beautiful women are. Married to a man whose name in Greek did mean tiny penis. So,
but yet they still have a daughter. So
that might just be some name calling after the fact.
But could we say that she was bisexual? Maybe could she be considered that in art?
There does seem to be an attraction in her poetry. I'm not going to read any of it out because I couldn't find a particularly good one, but lots of praising, particularly Aphrodite, she was a fan of. Helen of Troy, some of the famous, pretty ladies.
Okay, so what did Sappho actually do?
Other than writing?
Yeah.
Lived on an island, taught a load of girls, hang out with them all the time. There's some likenesses being drawn in some of this to how Catholic priests are kind of thought of at the moment, that they might join up just to get to young boys, and she might have just been teaching to get to the young girls. But she was grooming them to be faithful wives and get married and run homes later in their life, so not really super gay.
So the lesbian link comes from her poetry?
Yep, just from an appreciation of the female form in poetry.
Much of her poetry was then later destroyed.
Yeah,
for this reason.
There's a lot of kind of little quotes floating around, like white as an egg. That's it, just white as an egg.
Who knows what that could possibly mean?
Could have been a reference to some things.
Okay, so that's all we have time for in this segment. It's been great learning about Sappho and a bit about ancient history and gays in ancient history. And on to the next segment.
Yeah.
Next week.
Thank you very much, Josie and Emma. Sappho. Now, we turn from Sappho and ancient Greece to our commentator on all things Greek, who is Artemis. And Artemis has just been telling us while that was playing about, what were you saying about the way the English have, the conspiracy that the English have been exercising against Greek myth?
Yeah, they're saying that the texts from Plato and all the ancient Greek texts were first studied by English people who modified them to make us look gay while we were really straight. You know, in the ancient times we were really straight.
Martial race, yeah.
We were masculine, really masculine. I know.
So they also added those pictures on the vases? Is that what happened?
I think that's a greater conspiracy of the Persians, who were also gay. Yes, they wanted us to look, gay. And so the English, who are known as the gay people in Greece. Actually, when I was leaving to go to England, my family friends were like, "Oh, you're never going to get a boyfriend there." I was like, "Why?" "Well, everyone is gay there." And I was like, yeah, I know. It's sad, isn't it?
If only that were true. I don't know if it's sad.
Oh, it's really sad.
We can talk about your love life another day.
No.
So that was great, Josie. We look forward to 3 more segments of that. And Josie has promised us on the 4th segment an interrogation of the appropriation or the ways that we can and cannot use these categories of the present to describe... Oh, we nearly had a coffee incident because Josie was leaping forward to the microphone.
Not an interrogation, but... a slight examination.
Good.
Not like 10 minutes of just
no.
examining all the sources.
Well, I love a good interrogation. But you're going to interrogate the idea that about using terminology from the present to describe activity or action in the past. Yeah, because obviously that's a big question for historians of sexuality. How do we think about those who in the past perhaps didn't understand themselves the way we may choose to understand ourselves in the present? So, Artemis, because you're back from divahood, we're going to go with everyone's favourite segment.
Set fire to your hair, poke a stick at a grizzly bear, eat medicine that's out of date, use your private parts as piranha bait. Dumb ways to die. So many.
Right, Artemis, dumb ways to die. I'm glad you're back. We had to historicise it last week. I mean, we're sinking to depths when that happens. I've even got the mic up.
Are you happy when you're making fun of me? Do you feel better about yourself?
Are you happy when you're making fun of me?
Well, you're supposed to be kind to your students.
Is that what happened? Do you think that's a pedagogic strategy that works?
You know what happened last week and this week? 2 very dear people to me died.
Did they?
Yes, they did. So it wasn't divahood, if you need to know. It was that I'm really hurt these weeks.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Do you want to talk about it?
Yes.
Who were these people?
It was a family friend, and then my grandpa died yesterday. Oh. I'm joking. I'm not sad at all. It's okay. People die. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was quite impressed that there might have been some, empathy welling up from within
There
you.
was. Last week I was a bit sad, but then I thought, okay, if you make fun of other people's deaths...
No, it's a good question. We should probably be asking these questions, shouldn't we? Is it tragic or comic?
It depends how they die.
It's neutral. No, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's neutral. I mean, people die. That's what happens.
Maybe it's both tragedy and comedy. And we use one as a way of coping with the other.
Yeah, maybe it's a defensive mechanism.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's it's not a defensive. It's assertion of life in the face of death. Laughter. I mean, this is what the Irish do, right? They get drunk and laugh at their funerals.
Really?
Yeah.
That is great.
You could.
We eat beans.
You eat...
Yes, we eat beans. This is so unfair, right?
We eat too. We have a feast.
You have a feast. Is it a celebratory feast?
Yeah.
Celebratory.
Totally.
Everyone's crying at our funerals. This is so unfair again.
It's just the grannies crying, and everyone else is just... It's just the grannies crying, and then everyone else is kind of going, okay, the person's passed on to the next life. Let's have a feast for them. Let's not, mourn their loss.
I mean,
they go
cultures
to a
of death.
better place.
I mean, maybe that's a way of mourning, right? I mean, we need the anthropologist to talk to us about cultures.
I was just going to say that one of my friends did his master's thesis on humour in death support groups. And it is very important cross-culturally to have these sort of bleak, black, funny moments during death because of the way that it sort of binds people together, and I think it's just a natural exercise in contrast, really. It's, you definitely... I'm not sure if it's universal in any way, but certainly there's lots of cultures where humour and death are very much intertwined.
And so was he looking at contemporary England?
Yeah, he was. He went to various support groups in the local area and looked at how it was a form of community building. And he was amazed to find the amount of humour which comes up in these sort of tragic situations. But I think you're always going to find it wherever groups need to sort of reassert their identity. Laughing together is, and along with sort of eating together, is one of the most important things you can do. And so you're always going to find that.
Can I talk about my stripper now?
Of course, that was like our allotted 3 minutes of serious discussion.
Yeah,
for Artemis.
great.
Thanks, Ben. Tell us about your stripper.
Yes,
Artemis.
it's great. I have 2 deaths today. I'm not going to start with a stripper because I'm
I'll save that up.
Yeah,
It's a treat.
I'm gonna start with Alex Mitchell, who was watching a TV sitcom called The Goodies.
All right.
And he found it really, really hilarious. So he laughed for 25 minutes straight until his heart.
The Goodies is not that funny.
Until his heart gave out. Come on, he was English. He was English. Laughed, then whatever. So he laughed for 25 minutes straight until his heart gave out, and he died. Right?
Oh, that's a great way to die.
I think it's painful. I mean, I when I laugh so much, I start being in pain in my tummy, you know. It's not very funny. So can you imagine laughing for 25 minutes? And it was probably not, the show wasn't that funny, so it was probably some kind of, I don't know, he was stuck there. He couldn't breathe. But it's funny. And funny fact: Mitchell's wife sent the show a letter thanking the producers and performers for making her husband's last moment so enjoyable.
Yeah.
Which is really weird for England, isn't it? I would expect her to complain or write to the BBC.
That's true.
Just for the fun of it. Maybe it wasn't even BBC, but you know, that's what you do when you don't like something. You write to the BBC and complain. Anyway, let's go back to my favourite stripper.
We're all just gay, sitting around in our red trousers, laughing at unfunny things and then complaining about them. I'm sorry, this
When
is...
he
this
said
is
we,
a
he
very,
was speaking on behalf of the English.
This is a cruel stereotype.
No, it's not. No. The stereotype is the thing about the gay and red trousers. The other thing is what I observed when I came here. I mean, we Greeks rarely complain too. What was that? Sorry.
No,
Anyway,
you just torture building. Back to you. Back to the stripper.
okay.
Oh, that was ugly.
So stag party friends were curious when a stripper failed to jump out of a huge cake. You can see where that's going, right? Assuming she was no longer in there, they received a nasty surprise when they found her dead inside it. So Gina Lalapola, nice name, 23, nice age, our age, guys. You see, we could have had another career instead of being here.
Still plenty of time.
So she had suffocated after waiting for an hour inside the sealed cake. She was waiting in the cake for an hour.
Oh my god.
But
Why didn't she try and punch her way out? Or
Yeah.
maybe she was trying to eat her way out and she failed, so she died. That's, you know.
Death by icing.
Yeah, great, isn't it?
Oh, that's
a hazard.
Not funny.
That's a hazard
There's
of
so
being-
much patriarchy going on there in that story.
Can you imagine opening a cake and finding a semi-naked woman in there? I find it hilarious. But then again...
Just another death. Just another death because of the patriarchy. That's quite astounding. Thank you, Artemis, for sobering us up. Okay, so we're going to move swiftly on from women in cakes to Simon, who is going to talk to us. And good morning, Simon.
Good morning. Tamson.
How are you?
I'm okay, a little bit sleepy.
Sleepy, yes. Well, I was drunk last time, so swings and roundabouts. Now,
We're also doing some sort of experiment to see if you can do hist under certain extreme conditions.
so you're doing it under sleep deprivation.
Yes.
I was drunk. Yeah, okay. We can work with this. We'll jump from a plane next time or something.
Yeah, I'll have a tiger in the room.
Okay. Yeah, it's like Life of Pi. Now, when I last talked to you, I remember sufficiently enough to remember that you were giving a lecture on 1916 and memory in Ireland. Is this right?
Yeah, the commemoration is coming up 2016. You can do the maths, 100 years, so it'll be a big deal.
That's a big number for Ireland. What are we going to see?
I imagine we're going to see a huge military parade.
Really?
That's the yeah.
Does Ireland still have it? Do you have military things there still?
You've just lost a lot of Irish listeners.
I'm not sure they were our core audience to begin with. We've already decided our listener is called Ethel and she knits rugs. So, okay, we're going to see big...
She might be Irish, though. Ethel might be Irish, and the rug she might knit might have the Easter martyrs on it.
So the Easter martyrs are those that participated in the uprising in the post office.
It's a very limited number of them. It's the ones who got shot by firing squad afterwards.
Oh, really? But those weren't just the ones in the building, were they? Didn't they go round, apparently, and round up houses, people in houses?
Are you talking about the British arresting people?
Yes.
It was very kind of post 9/11. It was anyone vaguely associated was arrested. So there's something like over 3,000 people were arrested.
And they're not counted as martyrs to the nation?
No.
So in the wake, okay, here's the question. In the wake of sex scandals in the Catholic Church, and work with me here, does this sacralization of the nation also become problematic?
No.
Not at all.
No.
No one's not calling them martyrs.
No. I mean, you don't have to even do the Catholic sex scandal. I mean, there's suggestions about Patrick Pearse being rather too fond of the boys under his care. So, but that's still not enough. It's a really, all the things that Ireland's divided over is not divided over 1916.
In fact, does it need 1916 all the more because of its recent troubles?
Well, what will be used, I imagine one of the things that will happen is the government will be fighting to have a certain view of 1916, whereas everyone else in the kind of public life of the country will be offering something different about 1916. You know, we've got to live up to the ideals of the men of 1916.
And so what is the government's view going to be?
I imagine it's going to be look at how well we've done. We've fulfilled the ideals of 1916, whereas everyone else will be saying, well, wait a minute, we've still not got a united Ireland. Wait a minute, we haven't actually got our sovereignty anymore because of how much in debt we are to the European Union and our other European partners directly. And, you know, wait a minute, there's still people who believe in using violence to solve the problems of Ireland.
So the memory is going to be repurposed for the politics of the present, always.
Always. But it never gets completely manipulated and controlled by the elite. People resist and offer their own definitions.
I mean, and that's a kind of happy thought in a way. But one thing we saw after 1989, the commemoration of the French Revolution, 200 years, was that scholarship on the revolution kind of died for the next 20 years. There was such a outpouring of state money and into historical scholarship, you know, in all its multiple saccharine and scholarly guises, that that everyone kind of ran away from it from the next 20 years. Do you think this is going to be a feature of the historical profession in Ireland, or 1916 will just keep on giving?
Well, I was on the receiving end of this with 1968.
Right,
so,
yeah.
So it was a big deal, and then it kind of dried up. But then other people were making the argument, which is quite good, which is, well, we can actually do the proper history now. You know, we're no longer being pushed by the government, by the media into little boxes. We can be freer now to explore things.
Do you think
so? There's that could maybe come through, but I think a lot of people are timing their work for the commemoration. Yes.
Mm. Do you think that was true in the case of 1968? That there was this space that opened up after?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has. I mean, there was a project based at Oxford around 68, which is still producing work.
But that was a project that is in the last 5 years, right? I mean, there were 30 years after 1968 when no one really... Yeah, I mean...
We're talking cross purposes again.
Probably.
Because I thought you were saying that, after the big commemorations for 1916, there will be a kind of massive lull in writing about it. And I'm saying, well, there was a lack of interest after the 40th for 68, lack of public interest, but scholars felt that also gave them the freedom to explore things.
I got my adding up wrong.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that happens in the morning.
Okay.
Well, this is part of our experiment, right? Extreme.
That sounds like a Flight of the Conchord track. What happens in the morning, baby? As I get my maths wrong.
I do get my maths wrong. You seem very au fait with New Zealand culture.
Time.
On that note, let us end on this lovely collaborative, discursive note that we've struck today, Simon.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope
Let it end.
Have some coffee and bagels.
I think maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm very cheerful when I don't have calories and all that. Or maybe chemicals are making me grumpy.
Maybe that's that's right. Or it's just that soft, squidgy morning Simon cuteness that we don't see. No, none of us see. You prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet, as
That's interesting.
says. Yes. All right, I'm off to teach students.
Yay!
Yay, history. Have a good day. So Ben, step into the chair.
It's a delicious cake, but not whilst I'm on radio. Thanks, Artemis. Thank you.
I'm glad someone's maintaining
I
standards.
know. That's the thing. The show got off to such a great start, such a professional beginning. It's all gone down here. Oh well.
So Ben, you have made a 4-hour round trip.
I have. Well, no, only 2 hours of the round trip so far. But you know, it's getting in from East London. It's a bit of a trek for me. So
We are so pleased to have you
Thank
here.
you.
We really are. And I hope you've had your share of rainbow cake.
Oh, the rainbow cake was delicious and equal.
Equal.
Deliciously
Actually,
equal.
can we take this moment just to raise a hat, tip our flag, whatever we call it, to the House of Commons?
I know. Yes.
For the vote that they passed yesterday.
Did they do a good thing, but it also somehow made the Conservatives still look bad, which is a miracle, I think.
That's the best of all possible outcomes.
Exactly. There ought to be street parties.
And there have been for less. So, okay, so you were going to tell us about Clifford Geertz.
I was thinking about carrying on the movement of anthropological history through theory and then go and talk about symbolic anthropology. It's really dull, isn't it?
No.
I managed to be interesting about structuralism a couple of weeks ago,
amazing.
apparently. But, you know, I can't skip too far forward to the 60s and 70s because that would be missing out a lot of very boring men with hats.
And we can't
do that. We've got to shore up some boring men with hats foundations before we move on.
In the wake of all these women and gays we're talking about,
I know.
we need to get in some straight-hatted
Some
men.
good old-fashioned middle-class white men.
Okay, which one are you going to feature
One
today?
in particular, Marcel Mauss, the nephew of Emile Durkheim, who is one of the big daddies of sociology and anthropology. He sort of invented both because he was brilliant. Marcel Mauss was in his younger days an anarchist, but people cover that up a little bit now. They said that he was just a socialist. He wasn't. He was a proper black flag waving anarchist.
Did he blow things up?
No, he didn't. He was more of an armchair anarchist, you know. The best kind, really. You know, nobody likes the whole blowing stuff up bit. But no, he was apart from Artemis, clearly.
And Jagvir, apparently.
And Jagvir is also kind of keen. Yeah. So, so Mauss, before he did his field work, was an anarchist, left-leaning French intellectual, and in the later part of his life, he sort of safeguarded Durkheim's legacy when during the Second World War.
You're going to have to give us a 2-second intro to Durkheim.
Durkheim, in a book called Suicide, he invented sociology pretty much when he talked about social inclusion into society and when you feel not part of society and when you do, and that leading to depression and suicide.
So
and then
he used this word anomie.
Yes, there we go. And in the elementary forms of religious life, he didn't invent anthropology, but he did great things for anthropology because in elementary forms he basically said that God is society writ large. He said that human society, when it worships gods, it worships itself. It worships social integration and inclusion, and that kind of model of society symbolically worshipping themselves through religion and through other functions is Durkheimian theory, and it's very important stuff, and it's cool.
So this is functionalist?
It's early days functionalism, but people still use Durkheim now. There's a way of reading Durkheim as an emergence theorist, as a guy who was basically saying that societies create these inward pressures in order to social facts come from people acting in certain ways, and then those in turn bear down upon the people. So it's sort of like society emerges from individuals and then in turn acts on individuals. So it's actually quite modern and quite complex, and it's really cool.
So Marcel, our friend,
Marcel Mauss, nephew of Durkheim, his big
family business.
It's a family business, and he trained under Durkheim. He took over his lecturing position at one of the academies in France, I forget which one, and safeguarded his legacy when Durkheim became fundamentally uncool after he died. And his big contribution to anthropology is his work on the gift.
Oh, gift economy.
He's the gift guy.
Oh, man.
And I know, Tamsin is so excited by gift giving that she just threw a thing at a wall. That is how cool it is.
Tell us about it's okay, Artemis, I haven't lost it. It's right between Jagvier's feet.
Artem Mrs. Sadface. The gift, which is basically he went off and did lots of field work and looked at these economies. Basically, there was a thought that the modern capitalist economy was an evolution from barter systems. You start swapping chickens and then suddenly you get money. No, he found out that lots of economies up until the very modern point in history would had these complex relations of gift exchange, whereby you'd throw a big kind of party or ceremony and give somebody lots of stuff, and then they'd be indebted to you, and your way of both cementing the society and stopping warfare, but also gaining a sort of hierarchical upper hand on people, was through gift giving. So he said that basically there's no gift without strings attached. All gifts have create social ties, and in turn create the need for reciprocity, for people to give back, and then you get these long-term gift exchange happening over time. It's a way of achieving political domination over people, but also a way of tying societies together and having. And he talks about the spirit of the gift, this inalienable quality, which makes something which is given to you so much more than and more important than something which you just buy in a shop or find on the street. And it's this inalienable quality, this fact that the gift can't be separated from the giver, which makes it so strong. And that paved the way in turn for lots of the stuff in actor network theory, people talking about objects as social actants, as in the stuff that we have in some way affects us as much as the people involved. You know, these aren't just accessories; these are a part of anthropology.
Yeah.
There's a whole movement called non-human anthropology, which sounds like nonsense because how can you have anthropology without people? Well, because objects are actants; they act upon us.
This is Bruno Latour's
Latour and all that stuff. Yeah.
Is there a sense that when the market or the marketization of when the market replaces exchange, gift exchange, that breaks down the social ties, and so we've got this kind of, we end up with anime. Is there a nice little circular Durkheimian?
It would be lovely, and lots of people, lots of Marxist anthropologists come along and talk about this commoditization of everything, and how that sort of wrecks societies because it reduces everything to a cash value. I don't think it's quite as simple as that, but that certainly is a current which, especially when you see places becoming capitalised, that certainly happens. And there's lots of movements against that. There's people who think that money made in a capitalist way is somehow possessed or demonic, and then they have to go through. There's examples of people. Where was it? Sierra Leone, I think. This fieldwork was done, and people, when they're baptising a baby, they baptise money with it in order to make the money holy. Because money is seen as this soulless influence. It is from the devil, and then they have to in some way make it holy. But then people say that this in turn steals the holiness from the baby, and that baby is cursed.
There's only so much amount of holy to go around.
So there's a lot of examples of people seeing capitalism as this thing that comes in, wrecks, symbolically destroys community because it destroys the relations between people and creates a lot of mess. And I'm not going to lean too politically into this, but that's quite a satisfying solution. Obviously, that nothing's ever completely as simple as that. But yeah,
Ben, I am so enjoying your anthropological segments.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, really.
I'm glad that someone is.
No, I mean the spatial ordering of meaning is as important as the temporal ordering of meaning.
Is it not?
Is it not?
Yeah,
it is. It is. And how is the boat?
The boat is all right. I've just run out of water actually this morning. I'm going to have to go to the water point.
Water everywhere, but not a drop to drink.
None a drop to drink.
What did you do? Well, how is Artemis? I mean,
she was taking a shower for an hour.
Yes,
it's true. Not on my boat. You wouldn't be able to have a shower for an hour. You just there'd be no water left. It'd be horrible. So yeah, no, the boat's fine. So don't worry, Mum.
Yes, we have to have a shout out to Ben's mum. Everyone, let's say hello. Hello, Ben's mum.
Hi, Marilyn.
Marilyn might be a friend of Ethel.
Possibly. Is that a euphemism, Charles?
Yeah, no, I adapted that, but I'm glad you picked up on it. In that sense, they Thank you, Ben. That was really good. I'm in love with the anthropologists as we speak. So you were going to talk to us about Marie Jahoda at some point.
Yeah, I don't really know very much about her, so I'm going to have to do some digging.
All right, do some
All right.
digging and come back to us.
Cool.
Jagvi, do you want to just say g'day to the troops? Because, you're here. We need to record your presence before we end the show.
Yes, hi.
Hi, Jagvir. What's your essay on?
It's from Capital, Labour and Power. What is evaluate the significance of the Great War on interwar Britain?
Oh my gosh. Okay, can I just tell you my answer to that question? I'm a continuist, not a rupturist. I don't think the Great War is a bigger deal as everyone says it is. But interwar historians need it, otherwise there's no such thing as an interwar historian.
Fair point.
Okay, but
Didn't most of the
me.
people die? And surely that was slightly ruptury.
Yeah, look, stuff happened. Stuff happened, people died. But
Townsend's view of history, stuff happened.
that's right, but that's not what really counts, right? What counts is the way people make meaning of it. And the ways that they make meaning of it are taken up from the pre-war structures. Just saying! Don't say that in your essay. Actually, say it, but don't quote me.
Do I have a joke for you?
Oh, okay, go.
Let's see. When do first year students write their essays?
The night before.
Well, actually, it's supposedly the joke is a week before, so they have time to review it later when sober.
If only that were true, the essays might be better. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, and thank you all to the coup, the people who executed the coup today, to Josie and Emma from afar, to Ben the boatie, to Tavinda, and the bathtub, to Jagvir, to Artemis, back on form, to Simon from afar, and Erica. Thank you very much, and we will see you next week.